Hello, friends. My name is Steve, and welcome back to Short Story Saturdays. Yes, I am back. Thank you for the response to the return of Short Story Saturdays. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I was blown out of the water by the response to it. Everyone who downloaded it, who listened, who reached out to me, and also thank you for all of you who reached out to me over my hiatus from Short Story Saturdays. It meant a lot to me. You know who you are, but thank you so much for doing that. It truly means the world to me. Thank you so much for doing that. Every time I read a story or I talk to someone or I do anything, I always say I'm excited to do X, Y, and Z, and I genuinely am. I'm always excited to do these things, and it's even funner when people respond to it, of course. But so this week I'm going to be reading a story from one of my favorite collections, and that is Of One Pure Will by Farah Rose Smith. Now, when I read this collection, I didn't know really what to expect, but this collection changed my perception on what you can do with short stories. What you can do with such a this format, with short stories, what you can do with it, all the different storytelling you can get in and all the different ways you can tell a story in such a short period of time blew my mind. It was a revelation for me. It was something I'd never read before. The stories just opened my eyes to the different possibilities that I never really thought of before. And thankfully, I have permission from Farah Rose Smith to read one of the stories from this collection. And I always try and pick a short story because these take me a while to record and to edit. Believe it or not, it takes me forever. But I always try and pick a short story to read. And thankfully, one of my favorites is one of the shortest stories in the collection, and that story is Dark Ocean. Now, I will leave a link in the podcast description for anyone wanting to check out this collection or learn more about it. It is like I said, it's a spectacular collection. Be sure and check it out if it sounds of interest to you. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is Dark Ocean from Of One Pure Will by Farah Rose Smith. If there is a discomfort in writing, it is because death is in these waters. Not the death of life entire, but the death of life as is. Coughing up a mist of marrow, I imagine my bones have turned to soup within me. I can bend my toe back like rubber. My ankles ache. Ball-jointed rot, I fear. It is as it will be, this predicament. I am in the boat as I am in any other place, gliding without purpose over the surface of life. There could be stillness without pain. I tell myself this to believe something, that there may be more to experience in sweeter places, that the wounds of wartime exile and the repeated torment in my mind. Clouds, like curtains, shield me from the crimes on high, broken vessels floating in a fractured haze, blurred by the burden of heavy eyelids. I can see very little, that is the truth of it. In these nights of liquid languor, menace brewing in my bones, wheezing, viperous venom. I soak it in. I soak in the terror of being nothing, surrounded by nothing, seen by nothing. The sun hardly rises anymore. A green streak will peek out over the stream ridge for an hour, maybe two. Mischief catches fire in my mind, a yelping, gyrating banquet of untoward dreams. I'm not opposed to them, any more than the myth of matter splashing over me in this rickety excuse of a ship. There is a great door to the ocean depths, and above it sits Manjuvai. I can see very little of a sand-scathed cloak, or the tiny bristles of fiber cascading down the length of his spine. Those that once glistened in the desert sun amidst the pouring sweat of merchant skins and soldiers' coins. I see only dawn-tinted waves, singing songs as omens to the brittle depths, warning wails in deeper flesh of a drifting darkness. If I were ever to return to the old world, they would ask me to speak of his face. There are no words within worth speaking, though I comfort myself with their design. A sea foam spreads into these veins, seaweed strangles my ribcage, now delicate from the soreness of being lost at sea. I have never felt discomfort run quite as deep. His eyes have the deep-set anxiety of the oldest, most tired of horses, until they flash towards me with a gruesome hue. I look away, marking the disturbance in the air of this moment. The peculiar frost as though swimming ghosts, in their immortal absurdity, have marked me with some inconceivable design. He glances at me with eyes harboring the deepest of disease, or contempt. I doubt I will ever know which. Nobody asked me about the offer of poison, a chance to avoid this dismal affair altogether. Apparently I misheard the counsel, or wandered to a far corner of the room in my despair without ears, or some such nonsense. They didn't ask about my personal brands of torment, soaking myself in darkling odors, drawing despair with fists over my own vanity. I was like the beast with no tongue in these old places, racing to the glory of honest people and failing, falling here. Ruby red sails, war-tossed oak splintering into midnight waves. I have seen such things, on what ocean I no longer know. One ought not look into the eyes of the weathered. There are too many things there to be absorbed, to cross over without consent or consideration. I, myself, have wandered too far into the eyes of the mutilated men, and find myself a carrier of a wayward pain, here, right above the stomach. I could drink up the poison of endless cosmic oceans, and never be so drawn and derelict as I am on the waves beneath them. I would wait for a brighter dawn to unveil this wreckage, but in this I have no say. We sail to a vile shore, beyond the reaches of guiltless foam. I whistle to a passing throng, unaware of my own mindless imaginings. Those ports of splendor are absent in such regions of desertion. They are the resting quarters of sunken souls. What hurricane could bring down greater gales of shame than these, shadows from beneath the waves? Sailing to the vile shore, it is a ways away, though the squinting eyes I could see haunt of the rim. A scream gathers in the pit of my throat, but it is strangled by soreness. Munjuvai, the collector, delighting in tormented notes as we wade through the darkest waters. I can think of no other currency for his great game. There is more to this pleasure of sea and sand than the mere vengeance upon me and mine. Or is he merely that merciless, that evil? Perhaps he waits for me to shriek in regret. No doubt these have golden weight in his trade. I will not allow him that luxury, or the collection. My voice will remain confined. Caution sinks to the realm of folkloric wonderment, but not of warning. I heard of such prostrations against mythic figures in the old world, each growing more passionate. I likened them to the religious doctrines I had long since rejected. If there is glory to be had in this mess, let it be fleeting. I don't want it anymore, or anything that isn't meant for me. There could be nothing underneath this sheet of black, or everything. The dark ocean itself could be my own soul, laid out before me in the ultimate punishment. My thoughts are as black as aging gaunts, in laughter, under the shadow of Androvac Munjuvai. His soul can be nothing more than a fragmentary snow, blasted from its core and dribbling out towards the sipping hunters of this deep. I reach out to the sky, and out falls the pale light of stars, slowly milked by the touch of living flesh. My chest burns, but this is welcome. This is living. We close in on the dawn, tired, but alive. I hear the faint sound of a whisper on wind, let it out from the saving place. If I could find it, perhaps I would escape. This cosmic co-founder of which I find myself imprisoned, how did I ever let myself become lost in such a way? There is little hope for me, so detached from the riddles and rhymes of someone so diabolical, so profound. I think no less of him. Rather, I must think less of myself, of ignorance. I was a guiding light. I so wish I'd harbored protection over deeper things, deeper thoughts, deeper times. I may have escaped this torment. By the foul pungentry of strange dark liquid, I fall to my knees, cracking my head on the railing's edge. I drift into the dark pool of dreams. The eerie glide of notes travels up and around every sense I possess in this unknown world. The needle of time has moved into place by itself, spewing over the elemental atrocities that would let me live and suffer forever. Here comes the chill of dead water again. The question now becomes, what will happen after this, when the vile shore is on the horizon and the current locks my course into the grasp? In a daze I imagine a horrible thing. My soul turns black and rips through my mouth in swirling particles. My body cracks like land under the enormous weight of a volcanic blast. This place is a festering Hades. My melancholy is so profound that even the orchestra in my mind's eye plays only songs of bitterness and suffering. I wish I had something else to think about, somewhere else to go, some dreams of fancy that far outweigh past grievances or current aggressions, but I do not. He could summon some sky hell's progeny in one fatal swoop. The uneasy pulsing of the ship towards the vile shore meets with an unlikely current. An age passed me before I came to understand these as a shifting the stark in the unparalleled universe. The very skies catch fire as haunted moans and bloodied raindrops pour down in this hellscape. I look upward towards the stab wound in the bleeding sky. My hands grasp on the broken boards, sending me, salt-soaked, splintered, into the deep, a shriveled mass, an excuse of a thing. The vile shore is ever closer, and there could be no hope left to lift my spirits there. The ship itself can't stand the unseen onslaught of malice. My squinting eyes can barely make out the faintest mark of a sheath-like barrier between the vile shore and myself. Reaching up to the heavens, if such a place could even be conceived in its presence. Every misstep in life was a seedling in this forgotten ocean. If I had known of what occurs beyond the indulgences of mortal travel, I may have never lost myself to such a place. The waves overtake the bow. My grip is lost in the onslaught of foam. I grab onto one last twisting rail as the vessel rips in half, being sucked in by the ominous power of the burnished sands. Only now, after so many ages, I let out a guttural scream reserved for the last of my conscious moments. As the power of my body leaves my arms and barrels into my throat, I let go of the rail and fall into the dead water, unspeakable, rotten, and wondrous dark.